Wendy Wright?
Yes.
I'm Richard Dawkins.
Very nice
kind
to
of you
meet
to
you.
do this interview.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is... Please note, the new number is...
I, the jurist, will be taking over from here, because if anybody who watched that original video knows how painful it
Are
was.
you concerned about evolution?
Yes.
Well, thanks for asking, Mr. Dawkins, but I'm not really concerned about evolution at all. From what I understand and what I've been told by the scientists, it's really slow. And if it's that slow, what do I gotta worry about? It'll never catch me.
There may be a controversy within evolution about certain details, but the fact of evolution is uncontroversial.
Well, Richard, I'm glad you're so confident of your position. I guess my concern with your position is it's only based on your presupposition. So logically, any evidence that scientists argue over never question the fact of evolution, just the tidying up around the edges, right? Well, isn't that convenient? The problem I have with all these human skulls and this one scientist says it's this kind, another says it's that kind, and they argue it over for years. Why should this be? I say it is because it's mainly a subjective discipline, which is why there's so much infighting. Now, I would suggest that science be used. Why not carbon date these skulls? If they are over 100,000 years, then we should find no C14. That's what science tells us. If there is C14, then that throws off the whole evolutionary timeline, which would contradict the presupposition you claim is fact. So science could test your theory, at least the age of the evidence.
Whether you like it or not, we are cousins of chimpanzees.
Really, Richard, the 2010 issue of the journal Nature published a paper that shows that human male and chimp Y chromosomes are remarkably different. Way more than your model would predict. The scientists come up with a few speculations as rescue devices to account for the evidence not lining up with their presuppositional position. So, the evidence actually contradicts what you claim is fact, but the scientists can't see any evidence that contradicts their dogma. They're blind to it.
We're slightly more distant cousins of monkeys, etc. Pig's teeth are really irrelevant. Of course you can dig up mistakes and even outright fraud. The Piltdown hoax was an outright fraud. But
Yes.
that was never used as evidence for evolution.
Excuse me? What did you just say? You do have a degree, don't you? Piltdown Man was supposedly the first missing link in Darwin's theory and got the ball rolling. To say it was never used to promote evolution is a bald-faced lie. It just shows your willingness to lie just to try to win an argument.
It was just a particular case of somebody in the 1920s who fraudulently made up a fossil. Where did you study science?
I went to the public schools, but what does that have to do with anything? Why is my science in question? You're the mad scientist here. You seem to be the one who's denying that chimp DNA, the Y chromosome, isn't even close to ours. You lied about the Piltdown Man just to try and bolster your position. So I want to know is what school bus you rode to get to these schools where you supposedly learned your science.
The evidence is actually rather substantial. It's not just fossils, it's DNA. Presumably you're not concerned about DNA. You accept the existence of DNA.
Yes, Richard, I believe in DNA. I also believe that DNA is evidence for creation and against evolution, because contained in DNA is information. That's what the genes encode. They encode information, and the information has to come from somewhere. The information can't come from the DNA itself because information created DNA. And then we move on to your other claim. Fossils aren't evidence for evolution. Fossils are just evidence that something died and was buried and covered in layers of sediment. And it had to happen very quickly. And so once they died, then they became fossilized, is what we call it, because all their bones became impregnated with the minerals in the soil. Now we look at those. Fossils are facts, but what happened and how they got there is another thing. They fit perfectly with the young Earth creationist biblical model of a global flood, because we find millions of dead things laid down in layers of rock by water all over the Earth. So we have no problem with fossils. It bolsters our position. And now with soft tissue being found in dinosaur bones that are supposedly 65 million years old, they're doing carbon-14 dating on fossils. And they're finding carbon-14 in it. That's two completely separate lines of scientific evidence that show that they're not old, they're young. But yet they're discounted because you can't and will never go against your particular dogma. that's the conclusion of part 1 of Richard Dawkins' interview of me as I fill in for Wendy.